Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this, to MIPTV's excellent 3D focus. A day and a half of real attention on all things 3D. My name is Forrester. I'm a journalist working out of London. I'm a fan of 3D, but I'm a fan of good television however it looks. Thank you for attending, for getting here so early this morning. Thank you to our overall MIP sponsors, YaLive and YaSat. Thank you to our specific sponsors, to Sony, to Korea's Communication Commission and their Radio Promotions Association. As the day goes on, and we did a massive amount of rehearsal yesterday, we hope there are no glitches in the content that's been assembled for you to look at today. It is stunning content. It is extraordinary content. And it shows how much progress is being made in the creation of new 3D content for our audiences. But if there are glitches anywhere in that content, it's our fault, not the producers. When it left the producers, it was really sparkling quality. I think it's sparkling quality today. A quick word of thanks. I'll thank them formally at the end of the day, but in advance, the team here at the Palais for both Reed Meadem and for the technicians working behind the scenes have performed extraordinary heroics to bring this content together. So let me thank them, all of the guys backstage up in the galleries there, for the work that they've done so far and will do today. We have a couple of excellent keynotes. We're really proud to welcome Erwin Schmidt, the producer from New Road Movies. Now, Erwin was the 3D producer of Pina, the wonderful, wonderful dance extravaganza that was Oscar nominated. It didn't quite win 3 weeks ago. Erwin, we really, we wanted you to win. But Erwin will give you his overview as to where we are on 3D. Erwin, your floor awaits. Welcome again.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Erwin Schmidt. I am a Berlin-based producer working for Neue Road Movies. I speak to you today as someone who has been utterly convinced and charmed by 3D. I'm also aware of the fact that 3D is facing rather difficult times at the moment, some might say. At least the novelty factor is no longer there, and with this I agree. But I would like to share my passion for this new visual language with you today. And my keynote will address 3D as a creative tool, and I will not mention so much of the difficulties that 3D is facing. The name of today's event is How 3D is Changing Broadcasters' Perspectives. Well, we will see if it really does. That is what the whole day has been conceived for. I claim television is ready for 3D and 3D is ready for television. And I hope to be able to give a few good arguments for those among you who are not yet convinced. But one step after the other. Neue Road Movies has produced Pina, which many of you might have seen, I hope. And when we started Pina, we were kind of the new kids on the block. We had no previous experience in 3D. We had never worked in this field before. We were two producers sharing an office and a director with a great vision attached to the project driving it. Very quickly, it became obvious that we had to divide our responsibilities, with Gian-Piero Ringel becoming the producer, taking care of the more traditional aspects of such a production, and myself becoming the 3D producer, taking care of, well, of bridging the gaps between the creative and the financial and the technical needs of such an endeavor. When we took the decision, actually, to do the film in 2008, late 2008, there was no infrastructure available for 3D. In Germany, we had 25 screens, of which half were in cities I had never heard of. And there was no distribution company that was actively working in the field or looking for content. And We started to work on this project in quite precarious conditions. The workflows all had to be tested. There was no standardized solution for anything. The equipment, especially the shooting equipment, the rigs, had to be custom-made and like handmade for our needs. When we returned from a first full-scale test that we did to see what could all possibly go wrong, we post-produced a couple of minutes of footage, and when we went to the theater, the screen remained dark, which later we found out was the fault of the projection, not of the footage. But nevertheless, it was a big shock. And when we finished shooting and came back after the first shooting block, we had a car full of hard drives with the footage, but we didn't know how we were going to edit because there was just no solution that you could rent, or there was no one we could call to ask how to do this. So we had to invent a lot of the methods. And if I may go one step back, the inspiration for the project came when Wim Wenders saw U2 3D in Cannes here in 2007. The film was screened at the festival, and that is actually when he understood how he could make this film about the work of Pina Bausch that he wanted to do for so long. He was looking for a way to bring her work onto the screen for 20 years. And with 3D, all of a sudden, it was there. And even though we didn't have any previous knowledge in 3D, one thing was very clear from the beginning, that 3D could not be treated just as another creative element on the palette in the range of creative elements. This was not something that would give a look to the film or create an atmosphere. 3D was something, and then we sensed that instinctively, that it demanded attention, care, and respect. And we understood the only way this was going to work was that we had to fully focus on 3D and totally ignore the 2D aspect of the film and the 2D aspect of the distribution. We decided from the beginning not to accept any creative compromises. And with the help of a great team around late stereographer Alain Derobe and a very enthusiastic post-production company, we literally invented the technicalities and the procedures to do this film. Now, I hope some of you have seen the film, and for all the others, I would like to screen the trailer. Please play Pina. The film was done in an incredible creative freedom, in a very experimental way, actually. There was this huge confidence that we had that with 3D we could achieve something that was unseen before, something really great. And in retrospect, I would not even be able to tell you where this confidence came from. We just felt that 3D was the key to something that would take us like a huge step further. There was a lot at stake, actually. We had taken enormous financial and creative risks, and there were all those doubters and skeptics who predicted that 3D was not going to work, 3D was just another gimmick from Hollywood, and especially 3D was not going to work in an independent film like ours, and that the film would go down. Well, I hope the film and the success both with the audience and with the critics convinced them of the contrary. And I think the film showed that 3D could indeed be used as a creative tool in an independent movie. Now, if we compare Hollywood and the independent scene, Hollywood has been and still is the driving force behind 3D on the big screen. But Hollywood also faces big challenges at the moment. 3D films have a shrinking box office for their release compared to the 2D box office, and the distribution windows get shorter since there is more output, and the number of screens are not growing as fast anymore as they did 2 years ago or 1 year ago. Simply, the novelty factor is no longer there, and the pace of the development has slowed down. And Hollywood has never given a satisfying answer to the question of the 3D compromise. Now, the compromise you need to take in a production that is produced stereoscopically is either you focus on 3D, thus neglecting 2D, or you focus on 2D and make a film in 2D that's shot with 2 cameras that is not like truly 3D, or you kind of like try to juggle around with both. And I think what was very helpful in our production is that we totally focused on 3D, and we ignored the 2 aspects. And we even tried to push and convince distributors to release the film in a window in 3D exclusively. And in some territories it even worked. And in those where the film was released simultaneously in 3D and in 2D, it showed that the interest for the 3D screening was much higher. So on one side, Hollywood has never really given an answer to this question. They try to do both, which is, well, the reason for this is in the distribution system. I'm not going to give any more details to this. On the other side, 3D, I think, and that's a pity, has only shown a limited creative impact on the independent scene. So there has been very little spillover onto the independent scene. And if so, it was mainly genre films. Hollywood itself has taken very little creative risks after Avatar. Avatar was the biggest endeavor Hollywood has allowed itself. And after that, it has relied on established recipes, like pushing out a great number of sequels and lookalikes. So here again, we hear the voice of those doubters and skeptics saying, "We knew it. That's what we told you. 3D is just not the thing." But don't get me wrong. I don't want to do any Hollywood bashing here. I'm very grateful for what has been achieved by the studios. Hollywood is the mother of it all, actually, in terms of 3D. Without Avatar and the other films, we all would not be in this room today. So I'm actually very, very grateful for that. And when I was in Los Angeles recently, I met a great number of people with a huge passion for 3D and the creative possibilities. But I think we need to see 3D in a broader context. The perspective on Hollywood and the independent scene is kind of limited. There is a trend of 3D becoming independent itself from the entertainment industry, from film and television, already having a massive spillover onto other disciplines. And I want to give you 2 examples that I find very appealing, actually. One is the 3D visualization in science. I met a number of mathematicians recently who work in the field of climate simulations, and they have such huge numbers of data that they apply 3D visualization, not only to achieve an evaluation of the quantity of the data, but also to evaluate the quality of the data. And these mathematicians are being trained in nonlinear storytelling in order to better evaluate what they see in 3D and to better understand what is happening with their data. Another example is 3D visualization in medicine. That is happening actually as we speak. Doctors do surgery with head-mounted screens or glasses, or watching the surgery on a 3D television while they actually do the surgery with joysticks. And these very same operations are being broadcasted from the surgery room onto like conference centers where hundreds of doctors can follow live what is happening actually in the heart of someone. So I think that is a very interesting use where actually other disciplines have learned from us who are working in the entertainment field. And of course games, that's a huge field. I'm not gonna go into any details there. So if you look at these developments that happen at the same time in the entertainment industry and beyond, the total immersion where the consumer is actually right in the middle of the action and where the consumer is embedded in an audiovisual surrounding is not a futuristic scenario anymore. And I recently started to read Fahrenheit 451 again by Ray Bradbury, and it struck me that this TV parlor he introduced there with huge TV screens covering the walls of your living room, that's all of a sudden within reach. And at Neue Road Movies, we share a belief: 3D cannot be stopped anymore. So we better embrace it and take it where it can be helpful for our purpose. And I want to give you a couple of reasons for our belief. 3D is more than just a premium at the box office that distributors like to cash in, also in the interest of the producers, of course. And 3D is more than just a space in front of the screen. 3D is more than a tool that especially Hollywood applies to sustain its position against television. And 3D has indeed become part of our evolution, of our creative, technical, and scientific evolution. And it will grow, it will develop, it will emerge. And the question we should therefore ask, or the questions we should ask ourselves are, how can we support 3D in this development? How can we take it into the right direction? How can we use all its potential, all its creative potential? We are still at the beginning of this development, and many of these questions have not yet been addressed. And that is where I want to pick up the idea of the evolution. Things are happening anyhow as we speak, so we better shape them and take them into the direction where we want them to be. The audiovisual sector, I think, is especially requested to take on an active role in this development. In the aftermath of the release of PINA, we have spoken at various occasions like this, and there is always one of the first questions from the audience once the Q&A session is open that goes like, what films can I make in 3D? And we think this is not the right question. The question that we should ask is, how can 3D add depth and presence to my subject and to my characters? How can 3D help to shape a story? How can it increase empathy and emotional response of the audience? How can we add an additional value to our products, to our narrative? Another evergreen that also very often is asked is, which cameras did you use to shoot PINA? And 3D is just more than two cameras. It's actually, the cameras are the least important part in it all. So we believe there is no other way to explore the potential of 3D than by experimenting with it, by embracing it, by taking risks both financially and creatively, by daring to speak in this very new language. And one place where this experimentation can happen is television. The development on the small screen is obviously behind the large screen. But 3D has become more and more present and available. The technology is advancing quickly and more people are buying more television sets in 3D. New business models are emerging, of which a very interesting one is IPTV, and mega events like the Olympic Games this summer, with hours and hours of program every day, will bring a boost to 3D. And there is a special program on this topic today. 3D productions, especially for television, get lower and lower, and technology gets more accessible and reliable. And new TV formats are emerging: documentary, performing arts, even drama. But for a real breakthrough of TV and television, the industry needs to do some homework. Formats need to be established, the format wars need to be settled, standards need to be introduced, glasses need to be more ergonomic, autostereoscopic display need to become functional, but most important, and this first part were only technical issues, most important, I think, 3D needs to be, a 3D program, 3D content needs to be addressed as such, needs to be conceived and produced with 3D at the very core of it. 3D, again, is more than just two cameras. And maybe we should spend a couple of thoughts on the definition of 3D. What is that actually? Well, first of all, it's the endeavor of getting depth out of two overlaying images. That sounds pretty easy, and I spare you the technical complexity of this. I'm sure many of you are aware of it. And 3D, and this strikes me most, 3D is a visual language, one that, according to our conviction, is still in its formation. So far, only a couple of words and a little bit of the grammar has been invented or has been discovered, not more. And 3D is a tool to change the way we see and perceive an image. Since 3D has not only depth as an additional feature compared to 2D, but it has also an emotional value that can be explored. To give you an example, if you have a portrait of a person, a face of someone with a little bit of surrounding, now you can, in 2D, that's what you get, that's the framing. In 3D, you have the framing, and then you can decide where you place that face in relation to the screen plane, whether you put the face in front of the screen, on the screen, or behind the screen. And depending on this decision, you add a specific emotional value to that face. People will conceive that face differently if it is in front of the screen or behind the screen. So narratively, there is a huge potential in this very little detail of where a simple portrait is positioned compared to the screen plane. And some people ask, and I think this is a very legitimate question, will all films, will all content be in 3D in the future? Well, I don't think so, but we will see. Our conviction, my personal opinion, is that 3D will be a possibility, will be an addition and not a replacement to 2D. We are aware of the fact that 3D is facing difficult times at the moment. Right now it is not really the hot ticket anymore. It was 2 years ago or 1 year ago. But I think there is a huge potential to be explored. And we as a company have worked in this field, and we have experimented, and we have tried to explore this potential with different uses of 3D in different fields. We were curious and interested, and we took risks both financially and creatively, as I mentioned. And just to give you a little overview on our work, we have done a feature film that you have seen the trailer of. We have done a TV commercial. We have done a video installation. We have done, or we are currently producing a 3D TV series, and we are going to produce Wim Wenders's next feature film in 3D, but maybe more in detail. The 3D video installation that we produced in 2010 was a work commissioned for the Architecture Biennial in Venice, and it's a work that is closer to art than actually to film, and it's a film that shows or that portrays a building in Lausanne, the Rolex Learning Center, actually from the perspective of the building. We reversed the perspective, and it's not a human looking at the building, but it's actually the building looking at the people. And the film has been screened in Venice and has been seen there by 170,000 people, then traveled a couple of international design and architecture festivals, and then was reconstructed in the original setup from Venice in Tokyo in the Museum of Modern Art. And I would like to show you a short excerpt of this production. Excuse me. So based on the experience of this production, we are currently producing a TV series called Cathedrals of Culture that is produced in collaboration with Arte and is a TV event consisting of 10 films of half an hour directed by 10 acclaimed European documentary directors. And the series is an invitation, as we call it, to a spectacular and emotional audiovisual journey in 3D and obviously in 2D. The films will all feature one archetypal European building and will ask the question, if buildings could talk, what would this building tell us? And we see this project also as a creative lab, and in collaboration with the Hochschule für Gestaltung, which is the School for Arts and Design in Karlsruhe, we organize a big workshop with all 10 directors to prepare them for this project. And the workshop will be documented so like other filmmakers can learn from this process. And we expect from this series and from the contribution of those 10 different directors, nothing less but a significant creative boost for the 3D visual language. We are very happy, of course, to have as a partner Arte on board, since they were very enthusiastic about the project from the very beginning. So the other project we are working on is Wim Wenders's new film that we are currently preparing and are going to shoot soon. It is a drama in the truest sense of the word. And with this, I dare to say, we are again stepping on totally new ground, as we did with Pina. And feature films in 3D have mainly focused, let's say, on the spectacular aspect of 3D. And with this film, we are going to show actors as they have not yet been seen, and we are going to apply all our knowledge and experience in order to bring a new visual experience onto the big screen. The title of the film will hopefully keep its promise, Everything Will Be Fine. And to come back to the title of this event, how 3D TV is changing broadcasters' perspectives. Well, I cannot answer this question. It is actually the broadcasters' job to reflect upon this, and I'm sure they do. But I can clearly say that according to our opinion, television is ready for 3D, and 3D is ready for television. And we are still at the very beginning of this development in using 3D as a window into another world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Erwin, just take a seat a second. I'd like to ask if there are any members of the audience who'd like to pose a question to Erwin, maybe on his experiences and maybe on the TV task. If there are, there's a question. That's right, 3 or 4. Thank you very much for the light. Well done. Oh, sorry. We're just getting the mic. We're just getting the mic. There we are. Coming down to you, Anthony. There we are.
Thank you. Duncan Humphreys from Can Communicate. Firstly, I suggest if anyone's not seen Pina, go and see it. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it's the best use of 3D I've seen in a movie. It's absolutely fantastic. The question I've got is, how important do you see the next year's Hollywood slate of movies that are coming out? We have Prometheus, there is obviously The Hobbit, but then there's also The Great Gatsby. How important do you think those movies are going to be in sort of, I don't know, repositioning the Hollywood's either desire to do 3D movies?
Well, I can of course only speak as an independent content producer, and I think there has been, let's say, a division in the use of 3D between what's coming out of Hollywood and what is being done in the independent field. And obviously, what Hollywood does is like way far out there. So that's not anything we can copy or we can follow. So I think we will have these two fields in the future, like dividing even more and like developing separately. And I think the way Hollywood uses 3D is absolutely legitimate in their logic. and we have to come up with an own logic. And I think the independent field is not there yet. So we don't have, let's say, an established set of tools. Like there has been just too little output in terms of 3D, and there has been too little experimentation. So the films that we have seen that were not studio productions, they all tended to copy what has been done by the studios, with, of course, like with means that were like 100 times smaller. So I think the only way we can position the field of independent content producers is by daring to come up with something original, something we really own, something we have conquered.
Let me follow that up, because it's an excellent question. The Pina was nothing if not courageous. There were 20 different scenes that must have really taxed you. How are we going to interpret this scene? How are we going to capture this scene? Do you see that same sense of adventure, that same sense of experimentation coming into force on the new Wim Wenders film? Or do you see it being more conventional or traditional in its storytelling and the way you capture the drama of the moment?
Well, I think let's say the storytelling of a drama is probably rather conventional. Yes. You know, like there is a way you have to tell a drama in order to capture your audience. Now, with 3D coming on board, we have a whole different approach. So. And that is actually where the ground is totally new. We are in the middle of a whole series of experiments. Actually, the same way we approached Pina, actually, with a whole series of tests and shootings, just to figure out which are the tools we can use. So we are actually still about to invent what we are going to use, because, to our knowledge, indeed, nothing similar has been done before. So there's no drama in 3D. You don't have scenes with people just like talking and debating and suffering and thinking and reflecting and changing. So usually 3D has only been used like for the spectacular, and we totally want to focus on the emotional aspect of 3D.
I can't wait to see it. Time is against us, I'm afraid. But I know you're hanging around, so if people have specific questions, I know you'll make yourself available for them. Erwin, thank you very, very much for our keynote.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you again.